Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Serving It Up. I'm Jim Hayes, along with the great Lance Lynn, the great Matt Holliday. Kyle Gibson is currently on a flight back to Baltimore, and I would say the problem with setting this up falls on me because I have a flight on Thursday, and I'm just opening this up so that Matt Holliday can bash me. So it's my fault, right, Matt?
I mean, it's not your fault. So,
Well, I laid out a bunch of topics. There was some discussion last time that maybe the topics should be sent out ahead of time. So I did that. I don't know if Lance or Matt even looked at them, but I'm just trying to do my best as the coordinator of this program. But let's start with what has been a huge topic in Major League Baseball, and certainly it's in the realm of Matt Holliday's career because the Colorado Rockies have 7 wins this season, and they just fired their manager Bud Black and their bench coach, and a lot of people are saying, how do you blame the manager for that squad? So I'm going to start with you, Matt. You played in Colorado. You're familiar with the organization to some extent. Just your thoughts on what's going down in Colorado.
well, I mean, I think, look, I mean, are they losing because Bud Black's managing? No. But I think at some point there has to be a change in like a sign that something's gotta change. Now they can't fire the whole roster. Typically the GM's not going to fire himself, and the owner can't be fired either. So somebody, it's almost like, okay, we need to change something. We got to change maybe a new voice will help the young players. Just a fresh kind of outlook, like, hey, this is like a turning point, or this is we're 6-32 or whatever it is, or I don't even know what their record is, but look.
Okay, I just stopped hearing Matt, so I'm just going to continue on.
Headphones gotta go.
I hate this so much.
What, the show or the setup?
Both.
All of it. Oh, that's hurtful.
I don't know why. I mean, StreamYard is the word. This literally happened to me last time too.
StreamYard is state of the art.
Anyways, I don't think it's Bud Black's fault.
Yeah,
can you still hear me?
Point. Yeah.
If in the future, if it switches over to something else and you can't hear me, just like hold up a 1 or a 2, so I know that I need to switch to something else.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Finish your point about the Rockies and Bud Black.
Yeah. So I think that at some point you got to send a message that like this is unacceptable. I think the organization is certainly needs to look at the whole thing. When you have that kind of start, you have, are your prospects good enough? Are the current players on the roster? Like you start evaluating like who's going to be in it for next year. I think when your record is this bad, you have to look at, well, okay, what are we doing and how do we fix it? And you start with maybe a younger manager. I think they interim to the third base coach, who I've heard really good things about, as a young guy that's got a lot of energy. So I think they're just looking at a way to kind of jumpstart the organization and see what happens. But I don't think Buddy Black was the reason they're 6-32.
So Lance, I think that's a rational point that something has to change. You can't fire the whole roster, and you need somebody to burn. So I think managers understand sometimes they're the fall guy.
Yeah, I think that's, you saw what's happened there with that. I think it was kind of like hey, we're in a bad spot. I think Bud's done a great job there. I have nothing but respect against playing against him over the years, and think very highly of him. So I don't think he's the reason why they're a bad team. I think they're just a very young roster, very they don't even know what they have type thing. And so, I mean, for his sake, let him get out of there and go on about his life, because whatever's going on there, I don't think he has control over either. So for him, it might be a old something weight off the old back, to be honest with you. And that organization as a whole, the last couple of years you're looking at when you get fired and you don't add a big league player to your roster. Obviously, it's not the manager's fault, right? They knew they were in a bad spot before this year, so he was the fall guy no matter what, which most managers are. And then, they got to go as an organization, like Matt said, they got to figure out who's going to be their guys they're going to build around. They've kind of, Chris Bryant can't stay healthy, so they're kind of they're stuck with that, whatever it may be, and then figure out who's going to be your guys and figure out how you can, build around them and, revamp your whole system and have a new young coach that you can kind of go from the top down so everybody knows what they're expected to do by the time they get to the major leagues. And I think that's probably their best bet moving forward as an organization, is find a manager that's young, that you plan on being there for a while, and then build an organization around that culture and what they're trying to do and go from there.
So as I recall, you were on a White Sox team that when we visited Chicago to face you guys, I just mean the broadcast crew. I'm not part of any team except that. I'm sorry?
You didn't play?
But anyway, no, I didn't play. I
Okay.
just report, sideline guy.
Gotcha.
But as I recall, it had the feel of like an outpost in the movie Apocalypse Now, where there was like martial law and things burning and there was no direction. And as I recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was some finger pointing at you and Joe Kelly for an entire operation that seemingly crashed. Well, what was it like being part of that? Because there may be some parallels to the Rockies.
I think you're looking at the White Sox situation with Tony getting sick and having his health problems, and then it was kind of a roster that underachieved. If you look at that roster compared to the White or the Colorado's roster, two totally different rosters all the way around. So I think in general, you're looking at two different situations on the fact that we had a manager and Tony that he got sick and had health issues. There's really nothing that could control that, and then a roster that really just kind of didn't mesh, didn't come together, and didn't play well. But if you go back and look at that roster, you had multiple All-Stars. You had guys that Louis Robert, Mancada, Abreu, like guys that we were supposed to be good. So that was a totally different thing, and that roster just didn't come together. We just did not win games. I think that year we finished 500, and then the next year we were all traded or all gone when Abreu signed as a free agent, and then that following year we had a new manager. Things were just kind of chaotic. But I think I think it'd be different if you were to look at that roster in Chicago and then Bud got fired. You'd be like, and they were 6 and whatever. You'd be like, okay, there's a difference there, all in all. So a little different. When we had multiple All-Stars and we were supposed to be good. We were supposed to win the Central. So a little different type of firing there or chaotic situation.
Yeah, but I like to bring in the finger pointing because I thought it was funny. It was like that guy. Hold on, the whole thing kind of went down
Yeah, it
together.
was kind of weird. They lost 120 games a year after everybody was gone, but it was everybody's fault that left. That's a different story. So I've never heard that one before. That was special. Everybody that was gone and that were on playoff teams, it was their fault. I guess when you play better when you leave, it is your fault, I guess. So we should have played better while we were White Sox. So it was our fault.
I just enjoy the blame game. So Matt, I want to ask you about playing in Colorado. So some people say it's going to be hard for that team, and I know they've had good teams in the past, very good teams, but based on the climate there and everything like that, just your sense, can you get steady, consistent pitching in an environment like that?
I mean, I think it goes back to the fact that you just have to outpitch the other team that night. I mean, look, your ERA, you're not going to win, probably going to win an ERA title, probably not going to win a Cy Young pitching in Colorado. I mean, it is a great place to hit. But all you have to do is beat the other team's pitcher. I mean, he has to pitch there too. And so whether you win 7-6 and you pitch 6 innings and gave up 5 runs, or you win 2-1, you still won. And I think that's where you still have to have good players. Like, if you put a good roster together and you build through the draft and you build through your Latin American program, and you have this influx of really good young players, you can win that way. And that's every organization. Now, you can't go out and, it's harmful to the organization when you sign a guy like Chris Bryant, he hasn't been able to stay healthy, and you give him the biggest contract in organization history. And he's really contributed very, very minimally for the team and the organization. So that hurts, certainly. But I don't think that they're unlike every other organization. You have to develop, you have to draft well, you have to sign good Latin players, and you have to develop them. And then if you do that, and you're however your onboarding talent is really, high level, you can have a good roster. And then if you have a good roster, you have just as good a chance of winning in Colorado as you do anywhere else. And so I think that, you probably aren't going to get the top 2 or 3 pitching free agents every year. And, there's been a lot of teams that aren't in that boat either. The A's and the Rays and, all these smaller market teams are not going to sign the top couple free agent pitchers. But there's certainly a way for sustained success if you are drafting well, signing, Latin players well, and you're developing well. The Dodgers don't draft near the top of the draft every year, and they certainly are adding with free agents, but they develop their own players and they're supplementing with free agency, but they also have young talent that's tradable, that brings them assets. And I think that's a model that you have to do well to be sustained and being able to compete.
Lance, when you pitched in Colorado, what was it like? What are the challenges of pitching there?
I always enjoyed pitching there. Like Matt said, you always just had to outlast the other guy, which just kind of made a career out of it. So if you beat the other guy, everybody's fine. Colorado is weird. I guess in the situation that I'm in, I didn't throw a lot of breaking balls, so I didn't go in there and get my feelings hurt because my curveball wasn't great that day. I wasn't worried about that in general. So I like pitching in Colorado. I think I've had good success there. I think I got a complete game shutout there.
Wow.
And that's hard to do. But all in all, Colorado, in my opinion, is a fun place to pitch, and in the sense of what is going to happen. So just be okay with that, and then say, all right, I'm going to give up less than the other guy, and we're going to win this game. And that's just a fun thing to have.
Before we move on to the next topic, shout out to our sponsor, Kovac Mechanical. They've been serving the St. Louis area since 1947. The warm weather's here, so you better get your AC checked out. These are the guys to do it. They got the latest technology and the best customer service in the business. I know these guys, so I can vouch for them. Air conditioning, heating. Call Kovac Mechanical, 636-343-4410, 636-343-4410. Next topic, Matt Holliday. I don't know how close you've been watching, but I know you're aware of it because you're buddies with Ollie and some guys that are still on the team. But the Cardinals are suddenly the hottest team in baseball. Did you see this coming?
I mean, it's always hard to predict a 9-game winning streak. I think after watching them, early in the season, and they got off to a pretty good start, and you start to see the formula that they could win games with. I think that I thought they would be competitive. Now, 3 or 4 games over 500 or whatever they are right now. I mean, I think that's a bit of a surprise, but I think that, when you have they're pitching really well. I mean, their starting pitchers are pitching really well. It looks like they're feeding off each other. And so when you have starting pitching and you have a closer that has the kind of stuff that he has, there's been a lot of guys in those in-between innings that are pitching really well too. I think Leahy has been really good. And a couple of these young guys have come up, and it seems like their stuff is ticked up, quite a bit. And so it starts with pitching always for me, especially with a young offense. If you give me 5 or 6 innings and you're not giving up much, then we're not getting behind early. You give young guys a chance to breathe a little bit, on offense. So I think that their recipe for winning games has been really good. Good starting pitching. They've had timely hitting and scored enough, and then their bullpen is closed down leads, and that's a good recipe, particularly in the last 9 games, where their starters have given them a chance. And I think that's something that when you look around the league, the teams that are doing well, that's a common denominator, and the teams that are struggling are typically teams that are getting behind in the first couple innings. And so they've, when you have a guy like Sonny Gray and Fetty's pitched really well to kind of head that rotation, and the young guys are taking a step forward. And so that's been fun to watch.
Also, tip of the cap to Miles Michaelis, who had the blow-up game in Boston, and while he's not going 7 innings or 6 innings, he's keeping his team in it. And you look at his ERA, like over his last 6 starts, it's really a tick above 2. He's doing his job, which is, Lance, to keep his team close and give him a chance to win. He's doing that.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, if you can figure out how to get through 5-6 innings and giving up 2 or less, and then you're looking over the course of this win streak, the starters have been doing their job, which means the bullpen can kind of slide into where they're supposed to be, and then they don't have to come in early. You don't have to get guys overextended in the bullpen, and then you turn it over to the back end. You're in a good spot. All in all, you're looking at the pitching, everything timed up. And the schedule timed up for them to go on a run. And when you're in the game, as Matt, everybody knows, when you know that your schedule's kind of working in your favor to go on a run, you got to go on it. And you tip your cap to them because they did. Now they're in a little different stretch with who they've got coming up, but last night was a good win, and you just keep kind of feeding off of that. And then make sure that you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and then you give it hell to the teams that are going to be tough. And next thing you know, you win 2 of 3 or something like that. So, and then that's how you get from 500 and you jump above. So this little stretch has been huge for them. And then hopefully it's something they can feed off of and win series. Obviously you're not going to win every game here on out, but it's about winning series, and it's about against the good teams, figuring out how to win a series, make sure you don't get swept, things like that. And the teams you're supposed to beat, you beat them, you make sure you win those series or sweep them, and then next thing you know, at the end of the year, you can be right where you need to be.
As we speak now, it's a 9-game winning streak for the Cards, and they got to win against the Phillies. Very good ball club. Up next for them, Kansas City, another team above 500, so we will see. The thing that surprises me, though, Matt, about the Cardinals is they're winning some games by getting a bunch of 2-out hits strung together. Other games, like last night, they'll few solo shots, were a couple of them anyway, good enough to power them. Sometimes it's home runs. But the big boys that are the young guys that they were hoping to find it with Walker and Nolan Gorman haven't really found it yet. I think people forget, though, that these are really young guys, and I think they just get frustrated. They got some runway, and it's not like they have clicked in yet. But with guys like that, Matt, don't you have to give them time because they are so young?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting in moving forward, if you continue to win games and find yourself sort of in the middle of a playoff hunt, like how much shorter is that runway or is. And so I think that's a kind of an interesting balance of figuring out, giving these guys a chance. And then at some point, does the team go, you have guys on the bench that are, maybe producing more. Do the players feel like, hey, like these guys, you appreciate it as players that the guys have some runway or whatever you want to call it, where they get a chance to fail and still be in there, and they're not looking over their shoulder every time they go 0 for 4. But at some point there has to be some production. Like, this is the major leagues. Like, this isn't little league. Like, this is the major leagues. Like, you at some point you have to show signs of production, and what that looks like and how you evaluate what that production looks like. I mean, I still think that that's important. And like I said, I'm all in favor of giving, you just running young guys out there and letting them figure it out to some extent. But at some point you go, okay, like, we're in the middle of this race and we have to find production. We can't just, for good, because they were high picks, or we think that there's production in there someday, somewhere. That's the challenge of it. And so I I'll be interested to see how they approach even the trade deadline if they continue to play well, win games. Even the division looks like, to me, a winnable division. I mean, I don't think that the Cubs and Milwaukee are going to run away and hide with the division. So it's an interesting, because with Mo in his last year and you have a GM in waiting, who decides that we're all in or we're just going to, keep going with what we're doing, or we're going to trade assets, or we're going to go out and trade for assets. Fascinating season, I think, for the Cardinals.
That's great. That's great stuff. Really good points. Thank you, Matt. And so, Lance, how do you see it going? So the crowds haven't been great. Even this rights holder will admit that. But as this young team continues to win, if they continue to win, crowds will come back. And as Matt points out, you're in a winnable division, and suddenly you're in the thick of it. Maybe you're not sellers. Maybe the plans change. Maybe the runway for some guys goes away. How do you see this shaking out for the Cardinals? Because it is a fascinating situation.
Well, obviously, if they stay on their heater they're on, the runway is definitely going to get smaller and things are going to change. But I mean, you don't know how it's going to play out. There's still a lot of time left before the deadline. When it's all said and done, fans, we got last week at schools, next week or something like that. So you're going to start seeing the tick up in fans just because school's out. So you see a little bit there. Obviously, we keep winning, keep doing those things. That's going to be huge. And I think the hope is you never want to just be terrible, right? So they're in a boat right now where these guys are playing meaningful games, and you can get a good look at what they look like in meaningful games, and that's going to tell you what you need to know. The good thing about them being young is they've got options to go down in the minor leagues and play, and then when you do that, you probably have the ability to bring up guys that are down there playing right now that are hot and stuff like that. So that being said, a couple of them, and for their career sake, it's time for them to make those adjustments and make the moves and start having some success at the big league level. But as a whole, you look at the guys that are doing their job. Some people call it a surprise, but I mean, you look at the top of that lineup; those are their core guys moving forward too. So it's kind of it's like who's going to go with them is where we're at right now. Is it going to be Gorman? Is it going to be Walker? Are they going to be a part of this or not? And I think that's kind of where you're at. And you're looking at the deadlines. What ended July, so they got a little wiggle room here to see who's going to be a part of it, and then make the decision of, hey, we got a chance to win this year. Here's what our team looks like the next 2 to 3 years. Here where we're at, and here's the moves we're making because we gave everybody a chance, and this is the direction the organization is going to go in. So hopefully that's what's decided over the course of the next 2 months or so, is these are our guys. These are the guys that, hey, you're a platoon guy now, or hey, you're going to AAA until you show us that you are a guy. And then we're going to put guys in there that can help our guys day in and day out where they don't have to carry us every night.
I think it's a fascinating and compelling part of it is, as Matt points out, Mo's last year. He wants to go out a winner. Heim is waiting in the wings, probably thinking, please don't mess this up for me when I take center stage next year. It's going to be fun to watch. It's fun to watch right now because they're winning. I did want to ask you guys.
They don't have to give away any of these guys. That's the thing is there's ways to get usable big league assets and let these guys go down and have a chance to actually develop and work on things and make adjustments in AAA, which is where some of them might or should be at the time anyways. I mean, you're looking at guys that didn't, they got drafted in COVID years and this and that, and they missed years anyways in the minor leagues. So like, let them have a chance to play and fail where people aren't judging every pitch they take, every pitch they swing at. And then next thing you know, when you're 24 years old, you come back and like, oh, he finally found it. He's only 24 years old. Like Jordan Walker can go down for 2 years and he'll still only be 24 years old when he gets back. He's got his whole damn career ahead of him at that point. So it's like, there's also got to be a chance to like, hey, give the kid a break a little bit too, and let him have a mental break and let him actually learn how to play baseball.
That's fair. I mean, there have been a lot of great players who had to go up and down in the beginning of their careers. Holliday, when you first came up, did you hit the ground running or was there an adjustment period?
Well, my first 2 games, I was 0 for 7 and concerned that I was headed back to AAA. I knew if I didn't get a hit soon, it was probably not going to last too long. So thankfully, I got 3 hits my third game. And then, I had a good rookie season. I mean, I think I hit 290 or 289, maybe something like that, my rookie season. And, ended up staying up the rest of the time and ended up in a bit of a platoon when everybody got healthy with Larry Walker and Jeremy Burnitz and Preston Wilson. They ended up trading Larry to St. Louis so I could play. But, yeah, I mean, look, it's like Lance said, I was 24 years old. I'd played in the minor leagues for, 4 years and a torn elbow year that I missed most of the season. But I had a lot of accumulated at bats. Nowadays, they can't, they're rushing guys to the big leagues and it's just happens a lot faster. And the adjustment period, when you get to the big leagues it's difficult. Like, I mean, look, AAA is good competition, but the pitchers in the big leagues nowadays, I mean, there is no soft landing spot, and you're every night is a huge challenge. Like, I'm watching it very closely with Jackson. Like, every night, even guys you haven't heard of rolling out there throwing 97-mile-an-hour sinkers as a starters, just guys I didn't even know who they were. And it's just it's kind of a different day and age where they rush guys to the big leagues. The big leagues pitching right now I think to me is an all-time high in nastiness, and it's hard. And so giving guys the runway is important, but at the same time, if they're overmatched, it's like Lance said, I mean, you may need a little more seasoning, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you're a failure or that you're never going to be good. It just means that you might need a little more time to really figure this thing out, and that's okay. And that everybody's not on the same time. It's not everybody's going to figure it out at the same age, and that's just the reality of sport. And so I have compassion for young players that that may need a little extra time in the minor leagues, or maybe a change of scenery or a new voice or something. I mean, just because it's not going great now doesn't mean that that's your forever.
Yeah. Look at Libby
Lance,
on the pitching side. Look at Libby on the pitching side. Like, it's like, okay, he failed as a starter a little bit, sitting down, did well, came back up, failed a little bit, put him in the bullpen, had a good year, and then now he's back in the rotation. It's like it takes a minute for it to click for you to find your niche. And, Libby's found it so far this year, and that's amazing. And then hopefully for those hitters, like, it's like, okay, you get here and it's like, Walk had a great rookie year. The question is, what's changed and why? And and then what hasn't changed? So they need to figure those things out. And then next thing you know, who knows? I remember when Aaron Judge first came up. I'm not putting Walk in that category, but Aaron Judge struck out quite a bit and all that. And then he was able to find those clicks and the ticks that he was able to do to become better as he got going there. And then, that's kind of where he's at. And he's getting a chance to fail at the big league level, but there's only so much failure somebody can take. You got to let him go have some success and take a deep breath and just be in play a little bit too at times.
I think it's just interesting too. Like when you're talking about Liberatore, like everyone was so quick to say, "Oh, they killed him with the Arozarena." Like it's such an unbalanced trade and another bet. You never know. Like if this kid continues to be a really good left-handed starter, I mean, the Cardinals might come out smelling a little bit better on this deal. And Arozarena is a good player, but I don't think that. Again, it's just we're so quick to put stuff, as definitive or forever on certain things that, okay, just let it breathe, let it play out. Like these are still young players. Liberatore is still a young pitcher. He still has great stuff. And now it's seemingly starting to click and find the command to combine that with, the great stuff and how he wants to use his pitches. And, in 3 years, we might look up and say, God, the Cardinals crushed the Rays on that trade. So it's like we're such a now what's going on now, society that sometimes in baseball, you just got to let things play out a little bit.
So I wanted to ask you about this thing that the Cardinals do. And I'm going to start with you, Lance, from a pitcher's perspective. They're not the only ones. They had the pepper grinder. Now they do the bird flap. I bring it up because Nolan Arenado doubled the other night, and the guys in the dugout were going, they guilted him into doing the flap. He's such a good guy, so he did it. Pretty much, they guilted him into it. And a lot of every team has their own version, or most do. You reach base safely, you gesture something to the dugout. From a pitching perspective, do you hate that? Do you notice that, or did you back when you were pitching?
Oh no! I mean, I remember when we first coming up, Waino had something for everybody when they got on first or something like that. So like that's part of the game, right? Like fans do it and stuff like that. As a pitcher, I mean, I'm not paying attention to someone waving their hands at second base when I give up a double. Like, good for you. Like, you got me. And it's like I remember, it's fun. Like if you look at the fans and I remember in LA, like when they do their little wiggle and the whole dang stadium's doing the wiggle. So it's like, I mean, if you don't like it, don't give up a double. Don't give up a hit. Like, so that's the way I always saw it. And it's just like, if you don't like when I strike you out and grab my crotch, don't let me strike you out. So like that's, that's always been my motto. It's like, I'm not going to fight a guy because he's giving me the bird flaps that when he rips a double, but he can't get mad when I tell him to go, go catch a seat and suck on these either.
Matt, did you guys do anything? I can't remember. When you were a Cardinal, was there any of that stuff?
Turning the lights on? Turning the lights on?
Oh, yeah.
Here's your dog barking.
What has he got? 4 Rottweilers.
So here's the thing with all that. It's like it's a long season, right? And so you got to find ways to have fun. There's certain things that I think are dumb, which is like, hold on just a second. You guys talk amongst
what a show. Lance, you made a hand gesture. Was that what they were doing back when I can't remember?
Sometimes you got to turn the lights on. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to turn the lights on. There's all kinds of different things.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's stuff that happens where like it's behind the scenes. It's really like, and there's guys like Nolan, and I didn't even, like there's some things that you're like, this really doesn't fit my personality, but this is what the boys are doing. And they want the acknowledgement, and I think it all goes back to, like I said, it's such a long season. There's just little things you do that keep things fun and keep it light, and it's usually something tied like an inside joke with the team, or at least it was for us, that everybody gets a kick out of. But like Lance said, it's just some of it I think can be a little extreme when it's very self-grandizing. But all in all, it's mostly just guys trying to have fun and keep the game in the right perspective. I think there's times when the game feels heavy and you put too much pressure on yourself, or you're riding the highs and lows of a slump, and you need a little bit of an outlet to have a little fun. And I think that's part of where that comes from.
So, Lance, as a veteran on a team where you've been back when you were playing, one of the veteran guys, you want to let the guys have fun. As Matt says, it's a long season. There's a grind to it. When do you know that it's time to be the adult in the room with the fun stuff? And how difficult is that to determine as a leader in there?
That's always a tough one, because we are overgrown children playing a game for a living. So you might be the most adult child in the room at times, but you're still a child deep down inside. So usually when it goes too far, that's when a manager or a GM or a coach is like, hey, that's too much. I'm like, all right, I'll take care of it. That was usually my tell when a coach was like, hey, I'm like, I got it. It's like, you're right. That was probably too much. But, you try to have fun, 162 games, 8 months out of the year, you're with each other all the time and this and that. And, I think that as long as it's not anything crazy, that's, hateful or anything like that, let the kids have fun.
I mean,
so,
I think that.
Let me just
go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying.
You go.
The best teams have the most fun off the field, in the clubhouse. You know, they go out to eat dinner and they play stupid games and they have stupid sayings and they have, you know, there's a banter, there's a camaraderie that you look forward to being part of that you miss when you're done playing. Those were the best teams that I was on, and I'm sure Lance would agree. The teams that they're not is the ones where everybody's on their phone, or they're going different directions, or nobody wants to have a team dinner, or nobody wants to hang out after, or nobody, you know, everybody's bolting and never wants to get to know each other away from the field. Those are the worst teams you're on, and it plays out on the field. I think that you, as an older player, the older you get, you almost want to encourage more childlike banter and behavior and interaction, because that's what makes it fun. And when you play a long season and you're around each other so much, you need to have some outlet of fun, that's a crucial for, I think, the team to have success. Obviously talent is first and foremost, but having that camaraderie and that ability to really play for one another and enjoy playing with each other is an important part of it.
So, from what you've seen, I'll stick with you, Matt, because I interrupted you 14 times. From what you've seen, maybe through your son, and you know, you're not that far removed from the games. Do younger players, are they different now, or they are more on their phone and kind of doing their own thing? Is that a change from players that you played with back in the day?
I mean, I think certainly, you know, the times are changing, but as an older player, you can't let them. You know, it's like some of these older guys need to step in, and I think that's where maybe the game getting too young, too fast, I think can be, you know, I think is the veteran presence that learned it from the previous, I think that there still needs to be big league dinners and guys that promote guys getting together away from the field, and don't just get on your phones and look. That ship has sailed. The phone is here. The social media is here. It's not going anywhere. It's not, you know, that's just the environment that these young players have grown up in. They've grown up with social media. They've grown up with their phone being sort of the central part of everything they do. And that's not going to change. But I think certainly as older players, you teach them how to be big leaguers, as far as like interact with your teammates, put your phone down for 30 minutes and go hang out with the boys, you know, get to know somebody better, find a game on your phone that you can all play together, where we used to play stickman golf in the video room after BP, and we would all be on our phones, but we're playing each other. We're yelling at each other. You know, you're talking trash. So I think there's ways to integrate, like, look, this is who we got. Like, this is the way, you know, society is. This is the way the young players interact with each other. It's more on social media. But I think as older players, you can certainly teach them and hope that they teach the next generation that there's something special about interacting away from the field in the clubhouse, going to dinner together, and having real relationships that you'll miss when you're done playing.
Do you see that, Lance? The younger guys, you got to push them into the team aspect, or are they ready to go children right out of the box?
I would tell you every place I've been's been a little different, to be honest with you. So I think that a lot of like what Matt has to say is like when you're taught a little bit coming up and you're kept accountable coming up, instead of, oh, you're such a prized prospect that no coach can tell you what to do. You're in the lineup every day, even if you don't run a ball out, this and that. So it's kind of it's different each place I've been. I will say that there is times where you have to kind of make sure you integrate the camaraderie part of things a little bit more. And then by doing that, it's like when I came up, like Matt and those guys were great at bringing guys along and helping you come along. Nowadays, you have to like kind of make it their idea to come along, I guess. And you used to just be told what to do. Nowadays, you can't tell them what to do. You got to be like, hey, let's do this. You got to make it their ideas. And you got to really learn who they are first, and then help them to understand them. Where I remember like I had Waino, Carp, Westy, and Loesch. It was like, hey, you're doing this, whether you like it or not. and which end up really helping me in my career. But it also, like, nowadays you're like, hey, you're doing this. The guy's like, I'm not doing that. Like, no one's made me do that. I'm already here. I don't have to do that. So now it's like, okay, hey, you get to know them a little bit, find the things they like, and then next thing you know, you got to have a little bit more of a, I guess you got to learn their lingo a little bit more, I think. And if you do that, and that's something that, you know, I had to learn too as I got going, because I was taught the old, like, hey, let's do this, and, you know, this is how you win games. And then, you know, there's a different way to do it. You got to be able to stay up with the times a little bit, but you also have to make sure you have some of that old school camaraderie. Like, with this, these are still human beings playing a game together, and you have to have each other's back. So figuring out how to do that, and every team's different every year too. It's like you can't stay the same, or it gets a little stale. So it's a little bit of everything these days.
I wanted to ask you to call out a former teammate, so I'm going to start with Lance on this. I hope no one backs away from the question, because I mean it in fun and love and positivity. But you talk about going out on team dinners, right? So the veterans generally pick up the check, is what I hear. I want to know a former teammate of yours that had made some money in the game, a veteran guy who was, let's just say, I don't want to say who was the thriftiest when it came to picking a check
Like,
at dinner.
the arms got a little short always. It's like I can't quite get to it.
Alligator arms. Yeah.
Oh, I want to make fun of Waino so bad right now, because he has the shortest arms for 6'7" you've
Yeah.
ever. But I mean, he I
Is
think
that true?
my first 3 years in the big leagues, he bought me a suit, so I can't give him.
But he does have short arms. I
He
think
just had short arms.
the funny part is extremely short arms.
Yes, especially for a giant. He's so
He had to
tall,
try hard to get to that back pocket.
but that's why he can play the
He
guitar
was
so
trying
well.
to get there. Like, he might have needed a spot to get the wallet out.
And he could throw a good curveball because he could short arm it. All right, I'm done. Oh man, that's a tough one. Ooh, I'm trying to think.
Put that on the rundown. That just came to me. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Matt Holliday said we're shooting from the hip.
You know,
Who you got?
Nobody jumps to mind for me. Like, I feel like all the guys, at least with those Cardinal years, were pretty generous. Like, we would play the credit card game. And I think for the most part, I can't remember anybody being too devastated. I think when you start integrating like Skip and some of these guys that would consider themselves like, hey, I didn't make as much money as you guys, that, you know, they get a little nervous when their credit card goes into the hat. So, you know, you always wanted that to happen for them. You know, as good friends, you wanted their card because you wanted to see them sweat.
Yeah.
But you know, like most of the big dogs, you know, that we played with were very generous and had no trouble paying the bill. So I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that we would wear out for being too alligator armish. But you know, it was always fun. I feel like the credit card game. Watching the guys that were new to it, watching them sweat it out was one of my favorite things.
I had one of those days early on. I was like, good Lord, I don't even know if I could cover it. I don't know if I've got enough on there to cover this one.
I remember we had a little dinner in Cincinnati, I think at the Mortons, and Mark Hamilton. I remember Carp ordered. He acted like he ordered. Forgive me because I'm not up on what the most expensive whiskey or shots or whatever it was. But I remember Carp had the bartender basically, you know, pouring shots that looked like the most expensive thing on the menu, and it turned out to be thousands of dollars worth of shots that weren't real. They were like soda or whatever. And then he had the guy give the bill to Mark. And to see him scramble, I think if I remember correctly, he had to call his wife. He wasn't sure. They had to move some funds around to cover this bill. And so to watch him sweat this, you know, these incredibly expensive alcohol shots. You have to forgive me. I don't know what's expensive and not, but
Pappies. It was Pappies.
The gist of the story is he was very, very concerned. He had been just given a bill that was going to take out their savings. And it was, you know, probably mean, but at the time it felt like it was the right thing.
So Mark Hamilton is the guy, if I'm not mistaken, his teammates called him the whammer.
The
Right?
whammer.
From,
I
like,
think that's. I think that might have been like self done too. So
and
that
now I
might
think
be.
he's a
That
doctor
might.
now.
Mark. I play with Mark. AA, AAA, all the way up. Mark is. He's a beauty, but that might be why he got that treatment a little bit too. Is sometimes when you speak a little too much or out of turn, you get a little bigger jab than everybody else.
And I think he's a doctor now. So tip of the cap to him.
Yeah.
Last question. I put it on the list of things we're going to talk about because I find stuff like this fascinating. We broached the subject briefly, but it wasn't in regard to the main topic we were talking about. But give me the name of a former teammate that when they were on the other team, you didn't care for him at all. And then they became a teammate and you're like, oh, I love this guy. Is there a guy like that from your past, Matt Holliday?
I mean, John Lackey's the first one that comes to mind.
All right.
I think Lance Berkman did not believe me when I told him that Lackey was a great teammate and a good guy. Black was a very demonstrative presence on the mound and wasn't afraid to, give the raindrop to his teammates or the dugout on a shift. He wore his emotions on the sleeve and, at times seemed like, not a great teammate, but I think Lance even mentioned it last week, as a teammate on your team, he was great and enjoyed being around him. Was really good to the boys and to his teammates. And so I think that he's probably one that comes to mind. I could think about it as Lance gives his, but he's one that jumps off, for me a little bit.
Mine's I love watching Lack pitch when I was young too. So that one was never.
Here, say it again. Say it again. You cut out.
I love watching.
You cut out.
I love watching Lackey pitch when I was young. So when he came over, it was great, and then he was awesome. So for me, I think when we got AJ Brzezinski the same year, right? And I remember AJ is notoriously known for being just a dick. Like there's really no other way to say it. And I think he thrived off that. He loved it. And then when he came over, everyone was like, they thought him and I were going to absolutely butt heads. Yachty was out for a long time. I don't remember what he did. And AJ was catching me, and they're like, these two are going to fight each other. That's what everybody thought. I remember Waino telling me, you guys, they're worried about him and I. I was like, I only have 3 years in the big leagues at this time, so why are you worried about me? AJ and I ended up turning into the Bash Brothers out of nowhere. So it was kind of and what might have been bad news for everyone else that he came over. So him and I end up catching a catching pitching duo. We had a great time together, and I ended up really enjoying him, but I didn't really know much about him except for when I was hitting one time, he was talking shit to me as a pitcher. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then they're like, oh yeah, that's him. And then I struck him out his next at bat and said the same thing going back to the dugout. And then when he came over to be my teammate, we were fast friends.
That's cool. When you guys got AJ Brzezinski, I remember the quote from John Mazalek was, well, I think we needed a rusty nail to throw in the barrel. And people heard about AJ Brzezinski, and then when he became a Cardinal, everybody loved him. Teammates, I know, the media loved him, and now he's a media superstar. Gentlemen, that's going to do it for us. I think you were great. You two carried the show. I appreciate it. Matt, tip of the cap to me to give you the topics so you were better prepared, but you were both great. Thank you.
Just another week of carrying you, Jim. You're welcome.
Yeah. Got your FanDuel shirt on there, huh, Jim?
Promoting the people that pay me. Always take care of those people.
Company man.
Yeah.
Oh no, look, I'm just a guy trying to support a family.
I saw you got a little wet last night, Jim.
What's that? Yeah, I got. It's funny because Wilson has been going crazy, dousing everybody. So last night I told myself, I don't care if I have to leave the interview. I'm running far away because I don't want to get wet again. And apparently he was using the blue Gatorade, which is sticky. So he comes and he gets Mason Wynn, and I'm about, 15 yards distance. But I misread the fact that he still had some Gatorade left in the bucket. So he got me with the leftover Gatorade. Otherwise, that was a non-veteran move on my part. I returned to the interview too soon. But anyway, that's just a story from the Sideline Reporter. This show is about professional athletes and former professional athletes and their stories. It's called Serving It Up. We hope you join us next time, and hopefully next time it won't be awful.